This is a device called Cavity. I've been working on it for about 1 year now. I've been using it in my work and I've been adding features along. The idea is that it's kind of like additive synthesis, where you start with silence and you add one sinusoid for each harmonics. But here I'm starting with pure white noise and I'm filtering the noise to get the harmonics. So the harmonics are not pure sines, but they are resonating bands. They can be more or less resonant, and I can individually control the frequencies, resonance, volumes, pan, the bands, etc. I'll start with what's bad about it. It's very CPU consuming. When I use it, I use only this device, and then I bake the sound, and I know there's still room for optimization and it's not totally done yet, but maybe what I would do is to release a full heavy version and probably a lighter version with less features and less frequency bands. There are currently 16 of them, less polyphony and less everything. One example of older plugin that was using frequency bands as a source of noise was Mic and Chimera. I had been using it a lot 20 years ago. It sounded like this. Just scrolling through the presets. I suppose one common challenge when dealing with additive synthesis is that there can be a lot of parameters and you have to decide what control you give to the user. Some additive synthesizers have many bands, and each band can have a different frequency, amplitude, phase, panning, etc. And if you expose every parameter, there can be hundreds of them. What control to give to the user without flooding them with hundreds of parameters. So what I choose to do is to create hard-coded lists of presets. I call them presets in the code, but it's not the preset for the device. So for every feature of partials, frequency, resonance, amplitude, etc., I have set hard-coded lists. I did them myself, and I never let the user individually choose the values. You just have to use one of them, but there are many of them. So hopefully that should be enough. For each of those 4 aspects of the sound, you have to choose 2 hard-coded presets from lists, and then those buttons below let you blend those 2 presets together in various ways. It doesn't work the same way for all 4 of them, but I'll give an example with frequencies. The most common basic setting for frequencies is harmonics. There is a fundamental frequency that is defined by the MIDI note that you input into the synthesizer. I'm pressing a key. If the fundamental frequency is, say, 100, then the basic setting of harmonics will decide that the second partial will be 200 and the third one will be 300 and then 400, 500, etc. It's very common. It sounds like this. There is another pretty common setting that is octaves. Here it would be 100, 200, 400, 800, 16, etc. Sounds a bit different. You can also set all the harmonics to the fundamental. And then there are some more experimental settings like primes, prime numbers, some famous series. There are many ways to just model how the partial should be tuned. I'll go back to harmonics, the common one. And then the detune button will apply values from a second list into the first one. If you set it to 0, the second list has no impact on it. But if I will choose, for instance, alternate. Alternate means that it will go up and down alternatively for every partial. So see how they move. You can also choose to shift only the even ones. Only the odd ones. And there are, just pick some of them randomly. Oh, there's the Gummy one. You can also multiply ratios instead of adding them. It's an experimental feature, but it's a bit more extreme. Same goes for resonance. There are many ways to define how each of the partials should be wide or narrow. For instance, his full means everything is very resonant. Low means the lower ones will be more resonant than the higher ones. High is the opposite. Odd is only the odd ones, etc. Some of them are inspired by real instrument measurements. It's not very precise for many reasons. But then you can mix them. You can mix them with the morph. 0 means it's the first list. 1 means it goes towards the second list. And -1 means it moves away from the second list. Same goes for volume. Volume is a bit different. It's cyclical. Yeah, there are many ways to shape the volume of the sound. And stereo is going left or right as expected. That's all for the partials tab. The second one is envelope. So you know what an envelope is, but this one is a multi-channel envelope, and the envelope can have variations for each of the partials. I'll try to make that obvious. This is a little sequence. For now, I'm applying the same envelope to all of the partials, but I can decide that the lower bands will take longer time to reach their destination than higher ones. I can make it like this. So for instance, here the higher bands will have a shorter decay. Or I could do the opposite. Or I can do many things. I know it's a bit weird, but I'm using the panning dots to also represent times, envelope times, like big dots means longer times. Now LFO tab. At first, I didn't like the idea of embedding an LFO directly inside the device, because usually when I need an LFO for anything, I would just take the LFO device and apply it on whatever I need to control. But here, this LFO is a multi-channel LFO, which means that it can differ for every partial, just like the envelope. So I can set a normal LFO to, let's say, the resonance. But then I can ask each phase to be shifted. For instance, if I group all the phases together and apply them to frequency, then using the LFO would be the same as moving this detune button. Yeah, it would be clearer if I use this one, alternate. Here, all of them move up and down, but they move at once at the same time. And if I do it with the LFO, they also move up and down, but not at the same time. And I can turn the LFO on. They are phase shifted. In many ways. This is a visualization of how the phases are shifted. Sometimes they are evenly shifted, sometimes they are grouped together, or they can be... it's kind of clear. And then I can apply the LFO on the resonance, the frequency, that's not too much, the volumes, the panel, and I can apply them on the envelope. The way it works for each of these aspects is still work in progress, and it's still a bit different. I won't go into detail again, but what else is there to say? I can make it sync with the tempo. I can add steps. And I can make the steps relative to the tempo, regardless of if the LFO is based on the tempo or not. And also, instead of shifting the phase, I can also modify the frequency of each band. What else to say about this? I can change the shape of the waveform. There are several waveforms. Square. This would be like PWM if I use it on square. Ramp, yeah. And I can smooth it. And I can also adapt. This is not really interesting. But I can. This adapts to the number of harmonics that is being used. Can be useful sometimes. I'll just say a few words about this box here. It's a reverb. It's the dry wet box for the reverb. I don't really like when there are reverbs or delays by default embedded in plugins and they are always on by default. So I kept this one off by default, and it's not going to turn itself on until you manually do it. And there is this button here that is a randomizer for the reverb, so it will just create a new set of random parameters. And now the snap. The snapping window is very new. What it does is you choose a set of notes and it will snap all of the partials to the closest note. For instance, here is how it sounds without the snapping, and if I activate it and set it to C, yeah, it's very CPU demanding. It uses a multi-channel gen object with a code box that runs at audio rate, so it uses a lot of CPU, but if you turn it off, it's okay. If I add the G, every partial will snap to the closest note between C and G. I can ask every partial to go through that process, or I can say only from the third one to the 10th one. I'm going to eventually redo that in a different, better way, but for now it's going to be like this. And although this process happens after the LFO, so if I put the LFO back on, and then apply snap, okay, that's all for the snap one. And the other tab has three parts. The formant part is something that, unlike most of these parameters that we've seen so far, it differs depending on the key that you press. For instance, if I ask the second partial to be more resonant, then the second partial will be resonant regardless of the frequency of the fundamental. Like, no matter if it's a high-pitched note or low-pitched note, the second one will always be more resonant if I decide so. But formant is one of the only parameters that is absolute. Like, I can choose, let's say, 5,000, no, 2,000. And then if I increase the influence knob, every partial that gets close to 2000 kilohertz will be more resonant. It might sound like a post filter, but it's not. It's something that influences the parameters on top of the chain, like at the beginning of the chain, which means that I can do some effects like and if I invert influence, that means that everything but what is close to the center frequency will be more resonant. It's kind of like phasing effect. This is a bit difficult to use for now. The noise color box defines the kind of noise that is to be used as an original source of noise to be filtered. When set to 1, it's like pure white noise. And if I decrease it close to 0, it becomes softer, velvet, a bit crunchy noise. Maybe that sound doesn't make it very obvious. And I can also use an external source of noise. Let's try with a drum loop or something. Loop. Okay. Yeah, why not? This means that the higher the velocity, the higher the resonance is. This means same for the gain. This means higher notes will be quieter or louder. And lastly, there is a randomize button. It doesn't randomize everything. I just choose what to randomize and in what way. For instance, the envelope is not being randomized because I consider you usually know what kind of envelope you want. Yeah, this is a typical case where you can hear a note. It's not like chaotic, but it's not the right note. This is supposed to be a C, and that's why I added this tune button that just shifts the MIDI note. So you can correct anything that would be badly tuned because of the randomizers or LFOs detuning or whatever. Yeah, in addition to destroying the CPU, it might also destroy your ears. The randomize button is very erratic. I tried my best to control. I even added a button here to compensate for highly resonating peaks, but it's very difficult to control anything that might happen when you press randomize. So good to be careful and maybe decrease the volume a little bit. So that's the current state of this plugin. I will continue to work on it slowly. I might be open to people who would like to test it I have only tried it on my computer so far. I I usually release everything I'm doing with Max for free, but this one is it was a lot of work, and I might try to sell it for once. I don't know. Either way, I should really make a lighter version that doesn't destroy the CPU, and maybe a version that doesn't destroy the ear of the user. But I'm still not sure how.